Hi, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Yes? As I tried to go live, the system told me that traffic was high, so it asked me to wait. This has never happened before. So I hope the signal or the internet speed is okay. Can people tell me if they can hear me? Yes? All right. Okay. All right. Well, happy Sunday. Happy New Year, and welcome to Leisrealtalk. Um, uh, how do I sound? Good? Sound quality is good? Yes, you can you see me as well? Yes? Okay. All right. Well, happy new year. 2025 has kicked off with a series of unsettling events in China. Earthquakes, fires, and a mysterious outbreak of illnesses. With such an ominous beginning, perhaps I think it's time to entertain a little superstition. Let's try to be superstitious Chinese for a day for a change and take a closer look at these um, real world crises and compare them to prophetic predictions from ancient wisdom to modern day interpretations, from east to west. We'll explore what 2025 might have in store. So we'll first talk about the ominous reality in China, uh, the mysterious outbreak of illnesses, and then earthquakes in Ningxia, Gansu, and the resulting panic. Then we'll talk about the superstitious, I'll give you superstitious insights. Most importantly, I will address what prophecies are and how do we explain it with modern concept. And also we'll address some of the ancient and not so ancient prophecies concerning 2025. Okay, so first things first, what has happened in China? Well, during the new year, social media videos show hospitals across China are overcrowded with young patients, anxious parents. Anxious parents are still waiting in line with their sick kids late at night. There are also unconfirmed accounts of crematoriums have maxed out their full capacity. So these claims, together with the lack of information from the Chinese government, brought back the unbearable memories from 5 years ago when COVID first struck. The situation is very similar because this time it also began in Wuhan. So in December, large amounts of students in Wuhan got sick. I want to share with you is sorry, just want to make sure internet speed is okay. Can people see me? Because I got warned before I went live. Excuse me. Yes? Okay, sorry. Sorry for the pause. Okay, good. Excuse me. So in December, large amounts of people in Wuhan got sick. Parents were comparing notes online about number of kids in their children's schools or classes who were sick. In some schools, over 50% of the children were absent. Many schools were forced to hold classes online and move up exams so the schools could be closed for winter breaks earlier. Parents in Wuhan discussed their children's illnesses on social media. There was an assortment of infections. Norovirus infection, influenza A, influenza B, bacterial infections, pneumonia, respiratory syncytial virus, and human metapneumovirus, or HMPV. But oddly, there's no official diagnosis of COVID. People question in private if it's another variant of COVID because they say the symptoms and the level of sufferings are very similar. Well, Chinese authorities call it influenza. Chinese media attributed the outbreak to HMPV, or human human metapneumovirus. Western media outlets have also reported an HMPV outbreak in China. Several of China's neighboring countries, such as India, Malaysia, Pakistan, are taking precautious measures against the spread of HMPV. However, China's National Disease Control Center has only admitted that influenza viruses are the main cause of this epidemic. Although social media in China is filled with accounts of overcrowded hospitals and panicking parents, the CCP has not issued any official reports acknowledging the severity of the situation. Both Beijing authorities and the WHO have remained quiet regarding the videos circulating on Chinese social media. According to some doctors, Chinese doctors, the patients with severe symptoms suffer from not just one infection, but a cluster of infections: norovirus, HMPV, influenza, etc. So it's the combination of several infections that have caused such severe symptoms. I spoke with a friend who practiced internal medicine in China, and he suspected that the Chinese government is covering up something, as the sudden outbreak with severe symptoms doesn't look like a normal flu outbreak. And he heard from sources in China that Beijing had an infection rate of 30% towards the end of 2024. And there weren't, people in Beijing have been talking about now seeing many people in the streets in the past several weeks. So that's the epidemic. Now, in addition to diseases, China's Gansu province in the northwest had 11 earthquakes on January 2nd and 3rd. The tremors were felt in the city of Yingchuan. So let me play you a video showing how people, where was that? I think it was this. Oh, sorry, this was the end. So this was the video documenting.
宁夏银川市永宁县发生4.8级地震，当日下午16系以下原因。
I'm gonna mute the microphone so you could see the footage. So this was what was happening during the quake as people react to the tremors. And several experts in mainland China have analyzed the situation and suggested that stronger earthquakes with noticeable tremors may still occur in the original impacted area or nearby areas. A staff member from the Earthquake Bureau of the province explained that Ningxia has now entered a seismic window period, which can also be described as an active period of earthquakes. And it may result in more frequent earthquakes. And they say there's a high possibility of future earthquakes. So as you can see, the successive tremors and the prediction of a stronger future quake caused people panic. An estimated 1 million people tried to escape the city, leaving trail stations, railway stations, airport, and highways overcrowded and congested. And for the people, yeah, so you can see they're highly congested. And for the people who couldn't leave, who didn't want to leave the city, many have relocated from high-rise buildings to low-rise hotels. Some slept in ground-floor stores. Some drove their cars to an open area and decided to live in the car for a number of days. In addition to earthquakes, there are also fires in Hebei, Liaoning, and Chongqing during the first 3 days of the new year. So pandemic earthquakes are not auspicious ways to start the new year. However, their occurrences should not be a surprise because there were supernatural signs in the later parts of 2024 that had warned us of an epidemic and earthquakes. So here are, this is still playing the footage of fires in Chongqing. This one is in Chongqing on January the 3rd. This is in Hebei, in a market in Zhangjiakou, also on January the 3rd. Okay, so let me come back. So these are not auspicious signs for a new year. And there were occurrences in the later parts of 2024 that have warned us about what would happen in 2025. So during the Mid-Autumn Festival last year in September, people were alarmed when many regions in China didn't see osmanthus trees bloom. In Shanghai, osmanthus trees were planted in many public places. For example, here's the osmanthus trees in Shanghai. And none of them bloomed in Shanghai. And then the Mid-Autumn Festival, which was in September, passed with many regions still waiting for their osmanthus flowers to bloom, sparking public concerns. According to folklore, if osmanthus does not bloom, chaos will follow. And that's a traditional belief. Then came November, when willow trees in Harbin, Heilongjiang, strangely sprouted buds, and peach blossoms bloomed in Huhehaote, Inner Mongolia. Let me play you the video. I actually found the video that showed this is the willow tree branches sprouting. This was discovered in Heilongjiang, in Harbin, Heilongjiang, in November. And then, and then you will see peach blossoms. Here's peach blossoms bloomed in Huhehaote, Inner Mongolia. Now, both these cities are in northern China, and the weather is very cold. November is very cold. The Chinese believe peach blossoms blooming and willows sprouting in winter are bad omens for a year of great disasters and upheaval. And there's an old saying, if winter behaves like spring, spring will bring epidemics. Because the reason people believe this is that there were precedences. In November 2019, before the COVID outbreak started in Wuhan, people did see peach tree in Wuhan suddenly started blooming. So with all that said, do you think the earthquakes and the viral outbreak in China are accidental? And also people wonder, will they get worse as we go further into the year? Well, the most famous modern-day prophets in China are the knife credit sellers who travel from place to place. In Chinese, they're called the 赊刀人, right? They sell their knives, sometimes scissors, on credit while giving out predictions. They don't collect payment at the time of selling. They will return to collect the money only when their predictions come true. And their predictions cover a wide range of topics, from personal fortunes, health prospects, to societal changes and state affairs. Just to give you a few examples. So in February 2019, before the Wuhan outbreak, a knife credit seller showed up in Huanggang, in the Huanggang region in Hebei, right? Wuhan is in Hebei province. So people asked about how to pay for his knives or how he wanted to sell his knives. He said he would come to collect the money when, quote, when everyone is serving prison terms at home and can leave home. People found it odd at the time. Who would be serving prison terms at home? Well, after a year. He also said he would come to collect the money in a year when everyone will be serving prison terms at home and can't leave home. So after a year, when people were locked up during zero COVID, people realized that the knife sellers, weren't ordinary people. They indeed had foresights. And also, October 22nd, 2022. Well, actually, this is not 2022. It was October 22nd, 2020, during COVID. Another knife credit seller appeared in Xinjiang, Henan. He said that his knives were 138 yuan for two. You could buy a pair for 138 yuan. And he would collect the money in a year. He also predicted that something dramatic would happen, or something big would happen. And if people could pass that tribulation, they would have a great life in the future. So people at the time interpreted it as meaning people would need to pay him only if they were able to survive that dramatic event. So they asked him what would happen in a year, but the knife seller wouldn't say a word. Now, in July 2021, Henan suffered a great flood. Many people died. Remember, I did a program on that. Remember, there was an underground tunnel that was submerged in water in minutes, with hundreds, if not thousands, of cars stuck in traffic in the tunnel. So recently, another knife credit seller appeared, and his appearance was caught in a video. And he said his knife is very sharp, and that he would come collect the knife in 8 years. And he predicted that rice would be selling at 8 yuan per half kilo, which was about per pound, and that pork or meat, I think it was pork, would be selling at 50 yuan per pound. So converting the prices into dollars, it's the equivalent about $1.20 per pound of rice and $7 per pound of pork. The going price right now in China is less than half of what he said. So what he was saying was that price would go up more than double. So what does he mean? That means he was saying that there would be inflation and instability. There would be instability in the next 8 years. And this was actually, I actually found the video where this man showed up. And the video was very short. It was only 15 seconds, but I found it. So here it is.
什么时候过来收钱？8年。8年。8年收钱。可以涨到8块，就一定要涨到50。好，没问题。8年到，都现在不要磨，3年不要磨的。什么时候过来收钱？8年。8年。8年收钱。可以涨到8块，就一定要涨到50。好，没问题。
Okay, so this man spoke with an accent, and what he said, people asked him how much is the knife. He said, people say, when are you going to collect the money? He said in 8 years, and people say, and then he said the rice will be selling at 8 yuan, and then pork will be selling at 50 yuan. Now, I know you are surprised. The man looked like an ordinary person, right? Most people would assume that they would appear with a great fanfare, wearing an ancient garment, something that looks like a Taoist robe. No, people with supernormal abilities don't want to look special. They can if they want to, but they don't have ordinary people's attachment to recognition and wealth. They know many secrets, but cannot use their craft to profit or obtain fame. So their craft has existed for thousands of years and was passed down from ancient China. these people with supernormal abilities usually appear very ordinary. They occasionally will disclose some secrets to a few selected people with the intention to help them during stormy times. And these people come out of nowhere and will disappear. People won't be able to find them because they don't want to be seen. And these are the modern day prophets. So now let me talk about, so what are prophecies, right? There are prophecies in the West, and there are Western prophecies and Chinese prophecies. But what are they? What are prophecies? Well, prophecies are what people with supernormal abilities see in other time spaces that exist simultaneously with different concepts of speed. Or the best way to put it is, prophecies are what people with supernormal abilities see in other time spaces existing simultaneously with different concepts of speed. Remember the film Back to the Future, in which Michael J. Fox travels back in time to the 1950s and saw his parents' teenage years? Well, he didn't actually travel back through time. He went in another time space existing simultaneously, in which time is slower. Consequently, he was able to see what happened in the past. Similarly, there are time spaces in which time is very fast, and the future exists there simultaneously. People with supernormal abilities can see things in other dimensions. If they can see the space with a very fast speed, they have then seen the future. If they could see the space with slower speed, they see the past. That's all. Modern science still cannot break through our time space, so it's still very limited. Everything our modern science accomplishes exists in this time space only. But cultivators of spiritual practices can see other time spaces, and they have this ability. However, people with this type of supernormal abilities are not allowed to disclose what they see casually. They're held against a higher standard or a higher moral standard. Their abilities will be shut down if they use them for profit or fame. If they use their abilities to raise moral awareness or general awareness in society, or to help good people, that's allowed. However, when they do tell people about the future, they usually tell it in an obscure manner, and that's intentional. And this is true in both Western and Chinese prophecies. Most of the Chinese prophecies are written in classical Chinese poems, which are subject to interpretation. The same is true in the West. Nostradamus, the 16th century French astrologer, is probably the most famous prophet in the West, who is known for his cryptic quatrain, which is the 4-line poems. His poems, he wrote about 900 of them. Actually, I have a picture of Nostradamus. Here we go. Nostradamus wrote, I think, over 900 quatrains, and he published them in his famous book, The Prophecies. The book was published in Lyon in 1555. While Nostradamus predicted many historical events, such as the rise of Napoleon and the assassination of John F. Kennedy, some of his predictions remain shrouded in mystery. So here are his predictions for 2025. He seemed to have predicted the Russia-Ukraine war by saying this: through long war, all the army exhausted, so that they do not find money for the soldiers. Instead of gold or silver, they will come to coin leather, Gallic brass, and the crescent sign of the moon. He also predicted what would happen in the United Kingdom. He said, when those from the lands of Europe see England set up her throne behind her flanks, there will be cruel wars. The kingdom will be marked by wars so cruel, foes from within and without will arise. A great pestilence from the past returns. No enemy more deadly under the skies. So it sounds like it's suggesting that England could face a devastating war and the resurgence of an epidemic in 2025. Another person in the West who's famous for her ability to see the future is the Bulgarian mystic and healer Baba Vanga. She here we go. She was born in 1911. Her eyes were injured in her teenage years, and she went blind. She left behind many predictions, many of which came true, including her own death in 1996. By the way, Nostradamus also predicted his own death. Now, many of the famous Chinese fortune tellers are also blind. Their human flesh eyes lost sight, but they could see with their celestial eye, the third eye. Baba Vanga also predicted, her predictions for 2025 are also unsettling. She saw major conflicts erupting in Europe, leading to widespread instability. She predicted natural disasters such as earthquakes and floods, which would impact various regions globally. The most astonishing one is her vision that humans would encounter extraterrestrial beings, suggesting that humanity would come into contact with aliens in 2025. Didn't we just see large amounts of unexplained flying objects throughout the United States and also in Asia that were suspected to be UFOs? So does that mean that her predictions have come to life? Let me move on. Okay, so this gentleman is Craig Hamilton Parker. He is a British psychic who has predicted Brexit. He also predicted the election of Donald Trump in 2016, Theresa May's resignation followed by Boris Johnson's rise to prime minister. He also predicted Queen Elizabeth's passing, as well as that Joe Biden would drop out of the 2024 election. He has been referred to as the modern-day Nostradamus. Recently, he made a prediction about China. He said that after Trump takes office, there would indeed be stricter tariffs imposed on China, resulting in a significant decline in China's economy. And sometime between the end of 2024 and the end of 2025, China's economy would suddenly plummet, affecting the global economy. He predicted that social unrest in China would intensify, eventually leading to a revolution and possibly even a civil war. He envisioned the disappearance of the Chinese Communist Party, replaced by a democratic society. Parker predicted that the revolution would not impoverish China. On the other hand, on the contrary, it would result in the emergence of several prosperous democratic nations on Chinese soil. He described a vision that he had during a meditative state in which he initially saw China as a muddy swamp. Then a group of women began performing a beautiful dance on the swamp. Parker said he had this vision as early as 2010 and felt that China would undergo a massive transformation, primarily a cultural awakening that would finally break free finally allow China to break free from the muddy swamp. I think the dancers that he saw, that he referred to, probably is the Shenyun dancers, who is the largest performing arts group trying to revive traditional Chinese culture around the world. They're actually performing around the world. and then they are established by Falun Gong practitioners, right? So Parker did mention Falun Gong in his speech. So speaking of prophecies concerning 2025, I must mention a Japanese manga. Let me move on. I want to show you the pictures. I went all over the place in search for prophecies concerning 2025, from ancient to modern, from east to west. I got dizzy last night looking at all of this, because this is even more difficult than doing analytical studies on Chinese politics. So this book, it's a manga called The Future I Saw. It was first published in 1999 by Roy Tazuki, who claimed to have the ability to foresee Roy Tazuki is a pen name. The author claimed to have the ability to see the future through dreams. Despite diligently creating manga for over 20 years, Tazuki remained obscure. Nobody knew who the author was, not even whether it was a man or a woman. And the book sold poorly, resulting in few copies being available. Unexpectedly, over a decade later, the manga gained sudden fame after the 2011 Japanese earthquake. On March 11th, 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake struck northeastern Japan, triggering a tsunami and a nuclear disaster in Fukushima, with over 18,000 people dead or missing. Fans discovered that the manga's cover had predicted a great disaster in March 2011, and even depicted tsunami scenes. So here, let me make this bigger so you can see. So this was the book on the left, the cover of the book. If you blow up the section above her fingers, you could actually see March 2011, and with the words "great disaster." So this led to speculation that the author had foreseen the March 11 earthquake. So this book became a hot topic, with people scrambling to obtain a copy, which were scarce due to its poor initial sales. Prices for the manga soared to 100,000 yen, or about $1,000 per copy in auctions. And during this time, an impersonator claiming to be Tazuki began making false predictions and appearing on TV. Now, the real author, who led a quiet offline life, didn't know about this. It's actually a woman. She only learned about it through relatives. She was shocked and felt compelled to clarify the matter, and published The Future I Saw complete edition in 2021. So on the left is the original copy, on the right is the complete edition. And in this edition, she described a vivid dream she had on July 5th, 2021, in which she envisioned a disaster in July 2025. Right? That's this year. That's the current year. So this is what she saw. She saw the Pacific Ocean south of Japan would see rising water levels. From an aerial view, she saw a sudden eruption in the sea between Japan and the Philippines, creating massive waves that spread outward. The resulting tsunami was 3 times greater than the 2011 earthquake. Landforms were altered, compressing and raising the terrain, devastating Pacific Rim countries. Regions from Hong Kong and Taiwan to the Philippines became connected. And she said, after the disaster, the world welcomes a brighter future. Other events Tazuki predicted in her book included COVID in 2020, and Freddie Mercury's death in 1991, and Princess Diana's death. She also predicted a return of COVID. So that's all I have for you today. Like I said, prophecies are people with supernormal abilities seeing sceneries in other dimensions, but they may not see them clearly. So what they described are just, it could be a vague sceneries in other dimensions as far as their implications in the human world. I mean, they may be correct, but people's interpretation, or the person describing the prophecies may not may add in his or her own understanding or interpretations. It may not be truly what they meant or how they would manifest. So the reason why, what I'm trying to explain is why prophecies may not be true. It's because when these people with supernormal abilities see the sceneries in other dimensions, and as they describe what they see, they add in their own notions and interpretations, which might have altered the actual sceneries. And then people later on try to interpret what they describe. They add in their own notions and interpretations. And also what they see may not be, may be obscured, may not be 100% clear to them. So that's why, prophecies may or may not turn out to be true from our perspective. So that's all I have for you today. So let's do a survey now. Do you think we should include the study of prophecies in our geopolitical analysis of world affairs? So vote, if you think yes, vote 1. If you think no, vote 2. If you haven't made up your mind, or if you don't know, vote 3. And I'm interested in seeing what people say. That's all I have for you today. Hopefully I know it's the new year, so we may as well indulge ourselves or entertain ourselves with some superstitions, right? As pure form of entertainment if you don't believe them. All right, I want to see what people say. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I want to give it a few minutes, and Chris or someone, anyone, if you could give me the survey results, I'd appreciate it. All right, let me see. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of water. Okay, let's see what people have commented on. All right, no comments. People are saying no comments, Lei. Okay. 1, 1, 1, 3, 2. Wow, okay. Lots of ones. A few 2s and few 3s. Wow. Okay. All right. Okay, 3. All right, okay. Let me see what questions or comments people have. Someone said I'm totally blocked. We don't block anyone. We do not block anyone. So if you're blocked, it's probably YouTube and not Lei, nor Chris. Who's the moderator here? We don't have a moderator. So you shouldn't. Nobody should be blocked. So unless YouTube is doing its thing, I don't understand why that's happening. So my question is, I don't use prophecies as basis for my work. I read them as entertainment. It's part of my culture. It's part of my culture, and Chinese, we all more or less, believe in this. I mean, think about the ominous signs from November when the trees were sprouting and the peach trees were blooming in November in Harbin. I mean, Harbin is almost like is like Maine. I mean, it's even northern in terms of altitude. It's north of Maine. It's very cold. It's the coldest part of China. I mean, I can't believe peach tree blooming in November 20th. in such a cold region of China. I mean, that's telling us something. And traditionally, people believe that when that happens, in the following year, we'll see epidemic. And surely we're seeing that. So you can't say this is pure coincidence. It is part of our culture, and it has been passed down for thousands of years because people have validated them throughout the history. I mean, if it cannot be proven, people wouldn't pass them down because people are smart. So it has been validated. And they predict earthquake and epidemics, and we surely have seen earthquakes. All right. TJ, Petra Lee. Craig Hamilton Parker often describes what he sees when he doesn't quite know how to interpret it. He's interesting to watch. I think it would be good if they just accurately describe what he saw as with little interpretation as possible, because he may not understand how to describe it. But if he adds in his own personal interpretation, then he could change. For example, he saw some beautiful dancers dancing in China above the muddy swamp. I mean, he may not understand what the dancers are, but he did say the dancers were trying to revive traditional Chinese culture. And I mean, people like me or people who follow China and Chinese culture know that's Shenyun, because they're the largest organized effort to revive traditional Chinese culture, and they're known for their beautiful dances. So I think it's best for them just describe what they see, and then they leave that for the public to interpret. But thank you for sharing that. TJ, you need to include it for insight into the psychic of the Chinese people and how they are feeling about events. Yes, and it's very much like when they see the blooming of the trees in November, it definitely adds a layer of fear or anxiety into the future. It definitely creates a deep set fear about the future, about uncertainty of the future. And that's important because the Chinese society is sitting on a power keg. Anything can ignite it, right? So so that's why you're right. You have the perfect point. It is important to include the study of these prophecies and the impact on Chinese psyche in the study of China. T.S. Jasmine, I have a hard time believing anything I can't touch. Oh, no, well, of course you do. Do you believe in the internet? Do you believe in the internet signal? Can you touch it? Do you believe in the X-rays? Examining your body, can you touch it? Of course you cannot. But you do believe in X-rays. You do believe in ultrasound, and you believe in the internet signals, the wireless signals. You cannot touch any of those, but you do believe in them. So, as a matter of fact, we humans believe in so many things that we cannot touch. So it's only science. The things that you don't believe is anything the science has accepted as true, even though they are intangible, invisible, we accept them. So we only accept what science tells us. Anything the science has not accepted as true, then we reject them with the claim that it's hard to believe in anything we cannot touch. But there's so much more that the science has not detected or touched. And we can't say that they don't exist only because science has not touched them, right? I mean, if we only believe in what science tells us, then we will never be able to make breakthroughs. But because all scientific breakthroughs are getting into territories that have not been known before. So we need to have an open mind. I think really smart people and wise people, they don't have such enclosure trying to, they have an open mind. about things that they do not know. So you do believe in things that you can't touch. Mario Nakula, last episode about Taiwan, you got the percentage wrong. I know I got the percentage wrong. I don't know what happened to me that day. It's 0.5%. You're right. I tried to have Chris fix that in the video, but we couldn't do that. So I posted a message in the description and the comments. Yeah, my mind is off by a decimal place on that day. Okay. Moonwalker, the trees blooming at an odd time is probably due to the decades of air and grounded pollution in China. That's only my opinion. Really? Okay, wow. Can we pollute the earth so much that we make flowers bloom in winter? I think I don't think pollutions have that capabilities. Pollutions are terrible. Anyways, that's just my insight. Yeah. All right. Thank you. World by Bike Lay, can you comment on Trump's hard comments on Taiwan during the campaign? Will Trump leave Taiwan to China because it's too expensive to protect? He may trade it away from Greenland. Well, I think Trump is. He is unpredictable, but he's a great negotiator. I don't think we can take what he said. He is not a conventional politician because we're so used to politicians, making certain comments, and he doesn't work that way. So I don't want to say anything at this point. I think we need to give him a little bit of time to see what he does. But his administration absolutely understands the threats that the CCP poses, not only in the Pacific region, but around the world. And so I don't worry about that. I don't worry about him, selling Taiwan to the CCP. But it would be interesting to see what he's up to with that comment. I think he's trying to negotiate a fair share for the Americans in geopolitics, because we cannot foot the bills for every country's security. So I think that's the point that he's trying to get across. But it's still too early. We'll have to wait until January the 20th to see what he does. Okay. Jack Cobbs. Xi Jinping was born in the year of the snake. 2025 will be the year of the snake. Is that a good or bad sign for him? It's not a good sign. We Chinese say 本命年. The year of your zodiac sign is a treacherous year. It usually is eventful for the person. So the Chinese have many ways to dispel the bad omens that would, the bad occurrence of events in the year of your sign, such as wearing a red belt or wear red underwears. I mean, I don't believe these things, but the Chinese do. I mean, they wear red underwear for the whole year, just to prevent bad things from happening. But if you're a good person and you have been, doing good things, I mean, there's nothing you need to worry about. But yeah, he should be concerned. It's I think there are other people. Well, isn't Craig Hamilton Parker said that Xi Jinping will have health problems in 2025? There are other Chinese prophecies that have predicted him having serious health problems in 2025 and will step down in the year. So that's likely. It's his year, the year of the snake. Israeli Tenet. I don't know how to pronounce your name correctly. Sorry if I mispronounced. Why you do not have Chinese subtitles so that 1 billion Chinese people from around the world see this truth? Are you afraid? No, I'm not afraid. There are so many Chinese YouTubers who do this type of programs in language Chinese. There's abundance of Chinese YouTubers who talk about prophecies and Chinese politics in language. But there are very few Chinese YouTubers who do similar programs in English language. So that's why I choose to do this in English language. Yeah. Okay. All right, can someone share with me the survey result? Oh, here we go. Moonwalker, thank you. 58% said yes, 24% say no. I don't know, it's 17%. Wow, more than half of the people think yes. I think at least, you're right. I think at least from the perspective of the impact of prophecies on Chinese collective psyche, I think that's relevant. That's very relevant and applicable. And there may be other applications or impact. All right. From someone said, Lei, would I make a complete recovery this year? I don't know. I do not know who you are, and I'm not a psychic. I understand certain principles, but I understand certain universal principles, but I don't read into the future. I mean, I base all my analysis and studies on things that happen in this dimension. Okay. All right. The tennis arena universe. Hello, Lei. Do you think in Chinese or English in your head when you have a thought? Mixed. I noticed that I have been thinking in Chinese too much because I read, because most of my sources are from the Chinese. So I think I need to read more English materials or use my English more often. I realize that the only time I speak English is when I do my program, which is problematic. I need to improve my English because I don't use it as much because almost everything I read is in Chinese. So all right, John S. Will you do a show on remote viewing? Oh, you mean clairvoyance? Clairvoyance, people have, the supernormal abilities of clairvoyance. They could see in other dimension. That's all. They could see behind the wall and see, through a distance. They could see what's, you're in the United States. You could see what's happening in China. It's called clairvoyance. And there's also telepathy, right? They know what other people. That's not the area of my study. So if I need to discuss it when it comes to discussing China's future or current situation, I will mention it, but that's not my focus. Okay. Mike Stewart, do the Chinese have a similar fable or moral story as the little boy who cried wolf? Oh, the Chinese have many fables and moral stories. There's so many of them throughout history. Yes. Okay, here's... All right, that's all for today. I think I've... exhausted my wisdom. This is the most exhaustive program I've ever done because you deal with the reality and you have to deal with the supernatural reality. You deal with the past, you deal with the present, the East and the West. So that's all for tonight. That's all for today. I thank you for joining me and I'll see you next week or this week. All right, stay well. Bye-bye.